It is now only 6 days to the first race of the Formula One season in 2026, and today being a Monday, which is the second day of March in 2026, we are only now going to have a few more days before we get to Sunday when that inaugural race of this Formula One season in 2026 will start. And I think this is when we can officially say we are actually on what you might consider to be a race week. And there are quite a number of things that are taking place, a number of things that you and I should be looking into that might affect how this week progresses. And the first one is the fact that there is an ongoing conflict in the Middle East. And this already has affected the travel plans and the logistics of a number of teams and also personnel who are on transit or who are supposed to be actually on transit to the first race in Melbourne, Australia. What this means is that it might end up delaying some people arriving in Australia, and it might also end up increasing the cost of actually travel for quite a number of things. When you consider that there are quite a number of personnel and teams who are actually having their connecting flights either in Doha or Dubai, and now they will have to look for alternative routes, that's definitely going to increase the travel cost. But more importantly, which is probably not very good for teams, it is going to delay the arrival of some of the personnel. And while some of the people are already in Australia, I hope that there are no teams that will be affected in terms of being ready and preparing for the upcoming race weekend. If this is the first time that you and I are meeting, I am Joe, and on this particular YouTube channel, I talk about Formula One and the business of Formula One. And I would really appreciate it if you would consider subscribing to this YouTube channel. The Formula One and the FIA have already indicated that they are not going to cancel the Australian Grand Prix, the Japanese Grand Prix, or the Chinese Grand Prix, because these three races are not directly being affected by the ongoing conflict. But it's important to keep an eye on the decision that the FIA and F1 are going to make when it comes to the race in Bahrain and the race in Saudi Arabia, because those are races that are at the heart of this particular conflict in terms of where they are located. And if the escalation of the conflict extends to, let's say, in April when these two races are going to be held, it might become critical that the races either be rescheduled or be cancelled. But we hope that it doesn't get to that level where the cancellation of races will become the only option that there is. Away from that, the other thing that we are going to be looking into is the upgrades that the teams will be bringing to the Australian Grand Prix. This is because we are coming from the pre-season testing that took place in Bahrain. And so teams have been able to have time to actually create a plan and also be ready for the first race of this particular season. So you can actually expect that quite a number of teams, and I would even actually think that all teams will actually have an upgrade. They will be preparing to actually put what they picked, the data that they ran, and any other information that they were able to gather. They are going to put that into actual upgrades that can help them actually extract as much performance from their packages as they can. And these are things that we will start seeing happening especially on Friday and Saturday during the FP1, the FP2, and the FP3. And I'm particularly interested and curious to see what teams are going to bring during this particular weekend, because this will be the weekend when we start getting answers to some of the questions that many people have. Who has a better package? How does the pecking order look like? Who is in the midfield? Who is actually struggling and who will be on the back of the pack? All these questions will be answered by the end of the first race in Australia. And while one race may not give us the entire picture of the season, at least you start getting a clue or an idea of how the pecking order looks like and how teams have been able to actually create and prepare for the racing of this particular season. If you have enjoyed this video and this conversation, watch the video on your screen right now. Subscribe to this YouTube channel if you have not, and I'm going to see you in my next video.